Welcome to Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority, the lively and engaging podcast for business professionals who've always believed they have a book in them. I'm your host, Jillian Whitney. Join me as I chat with authors and industry experts from all around the world to explore simple strategies to write, publish, and leverage your business book. Whether you're an entrepreneur, executive, or an employee, this podcast is for you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Easy Peasy Books Podcast. Today, I have a new friend in the house today who's coming to us from Atlanta, Georgia. And we're going to have a fun discussion talking about a deep dive on book marketing. That's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get stuck in, I'm going to have James introduce himself and his beloved little cat. That if you guys were here seeing this, he's cute. The cat's right in on this. So, James, please tell people who you are and what you do.
Thanks so much, Jillian. I'm really happy to be here. So my name is James Ranson. She said I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. I have been working in book publishing, book creation, book marketing since 2014. I've worked with over 300 authors on the book creation side as a ghostwriter, editor, book coach, etc. And I recently, within the last year, have pivoted over to the marketing and monetization side of books. And there's a number of reasons for that, but the biggest one is both in my own experience as an author and with the authors that I've worked with, I've noticed that there is a pretty sizable gap often between the writing of the book and the publishing of the book and the attraction and development of a full, robust, active client sales pipeline that as business authors, most people want to achieve that as part of their, the reason they're writing the book in the first place. And a lot of the current teaching, shall we say, is not really set up to make that happen. It treats it a little bit more like this is just an automatic thing that is going to happen when the book comes out. And unfortunately, as I've seen both in my own experience and in the experience of many authors I've worked with and observed over the years, it's not automatic. And so the pivot that I've been making and that I'm working into right now is exploring what happens sort of beyond the book launch. Once the book is out, once it's published, how do we bridge the gap between I wrote this great book that showcases my expertise and how I solve the problems that my audience, my ICP has. But then I want those people to work with me. I want them to be able to raise their hand and say, hey, that sounds amazing, but I need some help. That gap is what I'm here to help, bridge. And I've developed a couple different, I call them infrastructure assets that help do that.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And we are going to take a deep dive on this because essentially you're validating what I've always believed, that the field of dreams does not work. It's like, if I publish it, they will come. And it's like, even getting people to buy your book is tough, but getting people to go from a reader to a customer, which is, if we are a business book author, that's what we want to do. Not many of us are sort of J.K. Rowling. We're writing Harry Potter and we're just going to become millionaires off this incredible fiction book. If we're business book authors, we're not making very much money on the book, if at anything. You're lucky if you ever even break even if you're self-publishing. But the important thing is that is a marketing asset for you. And that's the mindset. So you're kind of putting on that marketing hat saying, okay, it's up on Amazon, but that's not enough, even if you get readers. So am I correct to assume that you think there's a difference between somebody who buys and reads the book versus somebody who buys and reads the book and now becomes a customer?
Yes, I think there's a couple differences there. Firstly, I will say, just as an opening salvo here, not everybody who even sees your book or knows about it is going to buy it or read it or finish it. And the blunt truth of it is, people don't always have time to sit down and read a whole book. They don't always have time to really engage with everything that you have to teach them in the course of everything that is in, 200, 300 pages of expertise. Some of them do, many of them will, but not all of them will. Um, so we first run into the sense of just trying to sell the book is not going to be it's not a guaranteed thing in the first place, and it's not going to be a great moneymaker because you know how little money you make off of selling books on Amazon. But the to answer your question more specifically, somebody who buys the book or downloads the book and reads at least some of it, you know, they resonate with your message, they think it sounds cool, and maybe they'll learn something, they'll pick an insight from it, and that's fine. And maybe they'll try to DIY it, which some people will do that. But what often happens when somebody picks up a book like this is they will read as much of it as they're going to read. And that could be one chapter, that could be the whole book, could be somewhere in between, could just be the back cover copy, whatever it is. And one of two things tends to happen. Either they go, all right, this is interesting, maybe I'll try it sometime. Or they go, you know what, this is really cool, but I don't think I can do this by myself. There's too much to parse. There's too many steps to follow. It'll take more time than I have. I've barely made enough time to read the book, let alone, implement everything that goes along with it. Maybe there's homework assignments or a workbook or something along those lines to be like, oh, great, now there's more work for me to do. These people, they know on some level that they need what you're teaching them. They know on some level that you understand and relate to their problem. If they didn't, they wouldn't have picked up your book in the first place. But there's a gap for them between, this person understands me and this person can specifically help me. And, that, excuse me, that can be where, honestly, it's the other side of the gap between the book and the sales pipeline that you might be seeing as an author. And so when you have the book sort of sitting there by itself, maybe some of these people are going to say, man, I really want to work with this person, I'm going to reach out to them. But maybe they won't. I mean, that's a tall order. You're the expert, you're the author, you're the big cheese, so to speak, where they could be like, man, he or she, they're probably really busy. They probably got a lot going on. They wouldn't want to just entertain a random call from me or a random email from me. But the ironic thing is that as the author, you're waiting for them to do that. You're waiting for them to reach out to you and say, hey, I want to work with you. I want you to help me solve this problem that's been plaguing my life or hurting my business, undermining my relationship, whatever it is. They want to reach out to you. You want them to reach out to you. And there's not an easy way to facilitate that just from a book.
Especially because people aren't always motivated to get on a discovery call because we're scared. Oh, if I get on his or her discovery call, they're going to sell me some $10,000 coaching package and I won't know how to say no. And so I just don't go.
And I won't know if that's actually what I need. Like the biggest reason people are afraid of $10,000 coaching packages is the one you just said. They're afraid they won't know how to say no. The second biggest reason is that they won't actually understand whether it's the right thing for them or not. And if they think it might be because it's related to the book they just read and the expert that they're talking to and they would like help from, but they also don't necessarily know, is this going to be, is this actually going to solve the problem that I have the way that I want it to have? Am I going to get, more than $10,000 of value out of this? And, you can sometimes tell that by reading a book if you read the whole book, but again, not everybody does. But you can also not always tell that. It can also be a question of, like, as you said, is this person just going to sell me a thing because they want to sell me a thing rather than because they understand my problem or they want to help me specifically? Some of the bridging of this gap is designed to help educate these readers more deeply around how you as the author understand them and how you want to help them specifically, and the steps that you want to take them through, or the mistakes you want to help them avoid. So there's already a more personal connection and a more clear understanding of what you would help them with. rather than a sense of this book is just a sales tool.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So you've actually come up with something to help people bridge that it's like, okay, I got a book out there. So what's the bridge between the book that they may or may not buy, they may or may not read, but I want to utilize the credibility and authority of the book. And I've identified that at least they're my ideal client. So how do I bridge that to actually generate money, leads, sell, monetize the whole thing? So what is your secret sauce, James?
So I have to start by saying it's not actually a secret as I'm going to make it sound, because for one thing, it's something that is it's showing up a lot more recently in email marketing and other industries. I think the book publishing and writing industry is a little bit of a late adapter to it. But basically, the way that this works is you build a content asset that is that is an educational lead magnet, where the goal of the lead magnet, and you're familiar with lead magnets where people put in their email address and then you send them something,
Right.
is to use the connection of the lead magnet to help educate the person who is reading it, the person who read the book, bought the book, saw the book, whatever, about, what is the most important thing or things that they need to know, whether they read your book or not, whether they ever hire you or not. What are the 5 to 7 most important things that they need to know about how to solve their problem? And you go into an immense amount of value in those, 5 to 7 emails. And it is done as an email sequence. This is important. It's not a PDF that people download and then lose among the, 237 other PDFs they've downloaded in their downloads folder over the last 2 years.
And don't read. And don't
And
read.
never read and forget about. Yeah. It's not the entire book because, again, we say not everyone has time to read the entire book. It's not a free chapter of the book because, one, that sometimes people can get bait and switchy about, which is not fun. And it's, there's only a limited amount of information you can put in one book chapter.
Right.
This is literally 5 to 7 central points, whether that's steps to success, templates to use, mistakes to avoid, crash course to go through the entire thing of how to solve the biggest problem they have. So, for example, the one that I've written for myself is, it's the author's income blueprint, the 5 mistakes that will kill your book's ROI and how to avoid them. And then that's some of the things that we're talking about here today. The goal of this is to give a lot of value up front for very low stakes. All they're giving you is their email address. And in return, you're giving them a week of in-depth, valuable education about how they can solve their problem. And then, one, that does a couple things. One, if they decide they want to DIY it, suddenly they have a whole lot more information about how to do that than they did before. Two, it pre-frames you as the person who not only understands the situation, the topic, and the problem, but understands what they're running into. Because I guarantee you at least 1 or 2 of the things that you talk about are things that they've already experienced. If you're talking to the right people, the steps to success or the mistakes to avoid or whatever it is. I like the mistakes one personally. It's probably my favorite. But if you're talking about 5 or 6 mistakes in this particular ICP's thing, I guarantee you whoever is reading this will have encountered at least one of them, if not, 2 to 4.
Right.
So then you are very clearly pre-framed as someone who understands not just the problem, but their problem. And then the third thing it does is it allows you at the end of the sequence, at the end of the 5 to 7 days of email, to say, hey, I just gave you a whole lot of information that is going to help you solve your problem. I hope it was really helpful for you. But, that might have kind of been a lot. Would you like some help implementing it? Would you like some guidance? Would you like some coaching? Would you like me to step in and help you make sure that it works? Things like that. And so suddenly you have a very warm, pre-framed ask of, hey, if you'd like some help, let's get on a call. And that's it. It's not super salesy. It's not super pushy. It's not, okay, yes, there might be a $10,000 mastermind on the back end of it, but it's not about, hey, join my $10,000 mastermind in every email.
Right.
You're delivering the same level of value, if not more, that you put into the book in an email sequence that they get one a day for a week or a little less than a week, that gets them completely on board with what you're teaching, whether they read the book or not, whether they buy the book or not, whether they just happen to see it and scan a QR code on Amazon.
Mm.
And then on the
Um,
back end of
yeah.
that, they're on your email list. So if they raise their hand to get on a discovery call with you right then, great. If they don't, they're still on your email list. And then you can send them newsletters. Then you can engage with them in other ways. Then you can talk to them about, hey, this is my experience writing this book. This is what I learned. Here's how it can help you. And keep giving them value and keep giving them value because they've already given you their attention and their respect as the expert in what you're doing. Whether they raise their hand to work with you now or in a month or in 6 months almost doesn't matter.
Mm.
They're in
Mm.
that pipeline. They are framed to see you as someone who's here to help. And they have opportunities to say, you know what, I think I'd like to get help from this person.
Mm. And then I believe over the course of those emails too, they're getting to know, like, and trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're building a relationship, whereas going from author to hop on a discovery call with me, that's sometimes too quick.
Mm-hmm.
That's too quick a process because it's like, I don't know, like, I don't even know if I'd like you. It's
Yeah.
like, I might not like your style. And so, you could be a great person, but you're not a good fit for me
Mm-hmm.
because you're
Exactly.
you're you're kind of a bellowy coach where I want someone who kind of nurtures me or something like
Yeah,
that. So
absolutely.
so individual differences can really matter. And I think you can tell a lot from people. Nowadays, emails are very informal and you
Mm-hmm.
get a sense for people's style. And, some people are an immediate, I just kind of don't like the way they write. They're not for me versus, wow, I'm really looking forward to the next email they write because I keep getting these quick little wins and I can see they're just giving me those baby steps instead of do a million things. And I'm like, oh, too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's sort of where it comes back to the idea of this educational lead magnet, educational email course, um, is set up in such a way that you're giving them a lot of value and you're not asking for a whole lot in return. You're not asking them to read the whole book. You're not asking them to get on a call with you right away. You're definitely not asking them to buy something right away. You're just continuing and expanding the value that you brought in the book in the first place to a different um format, basically, that is a little bit more accessible for people who maybe don't want to read the whole book yet or are
Got
not
it.
sold on the entire message yet, but are used to opening emails that come in every day, be like, oh, here's a little lesson that oh wow, I haven't thought about that. That's I made that mistake when I did this last year. I didn't, this guy understands me. This person understands me.
I like that. I like that. So how like people have different we think of an email course.
Mhm.
Course can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So are you talking about something high tech with like videos and this and that? Or are you talking
No,
just low tech, basic email?
it's basic email. Like, okay. If you are a visual person and you like having aesthetics and you have a brand that you like putting things, okay, fine. You can do all of that. That's totally fine. But it's not required. You don't have to make any videos. You don't have to, do a lot of fancy stuff in your CRM. You don't have to have like, a branding palette or, a color scheme or anything like that. It's literally just sending email. The ones I send out are just straight text. Um, you know, you can you can make it sound how you want to sound, or the person that you work with, somebody like me, can help you make it sound the way that you want it to sound. And if you have visual elements, that's okay. But the word course, I hesitate to use that sometimes. I try to alternate using that because the person who developed this is a ghostwriter named Nicholas Cole. He's one of my mentors. He helped develop this over the last few years, and he's used it to great success in other industries. He uses the term educational email course. Nowadays, course it has a number of different meanings to it. Sometimes people think like this is on Udemy or Coursera or something like that. I got to pay $185 to buy. It's like, no, you don't have to do any of that. That's not it's not that kind of course. Which is why I also will say an educational lead magnet, because it is very much a lead magnet that takes the form of an email sequence. You could also see it as like an educational course in how to solve this particular problem over 5 to 7 emails, but it comes out to the same thing.
Got it, got it. So you kinda did give a number of, like, 5 to 7
Mhm.
emails. So, why so short, like, as opposed to, like, 30 days or, whatever? Like, why keep it neat and tidy and or not just 1? So you want it a couple, but
Mhm.
you kinda said 5 to 7. Why is that the sweet spot?
So The sweet spot for that is if you're only going to send somebody 1 or 2 emails, then it's kind of like, what's the point? Like they're going to be like, okay, this person isn't actually putting in any effort. This person is just like, oh, he's sending me something for the sake of sending me something. He probably just wants to, he probably wants me to buy something. And he's not taking time. I'm saying he, but could be he, she, they, whichever. I'm saying he because as it were me. This person is not actually taking the time and the effort to really prove and show that they understand my problem, that they want to help me. Whereas on the other hand, if it goes too far past a week, like, you can have a couple follow-ups afterwards if you want to. That tends to be helpful, especially since at the last email there is a CTA. You can have some follow-ups to that where you talk about case studies or things like that. You can absolutely do that if you want to, and that can be really helpful. But anything that goes too far past a week starts to feel heavy. It starts to feel excessive. It starts to feel like now you're asking me to do a bunch more work. That whether it's, this is actually a paid thing that you're giving away for free, which has its own connotations to it and aren't always good, or you just want me to do a whole bunch of work before you actually tell me what's going on here. And unfortunately, this goes back to something that we were talking about a little bit earlier on this call. Readers of a book, they don't want to do a bunch of extra work. They don't want to, that's why things like workbooks and homework assignments for a book can be very hit or miss, because, the small-ish proportion of people who are really excited about those things are going to love them, and everybody else is going to ignore them. And some may actually be turned off by it. Be like, why would you give me extra work to do? I'm coming to you so I don't have to do as much work. I'm coming to you to help me solve my problem, not create additional things for me to do. Reading through and engaging with 5 to 7 emails that take, 5 to 10 minutes a piece to read through and understand, that don't ask you to do anything other than read. That is kind of the sweet spot, because it's in-depth enough, particularly since the emails are detailed enough. These are, 1,000, 1,200 words of content in an email. It's not just a little short snippet. They're in-depth enough to show that the author is really invested in this and really wants to help and wants to make sure that you, the reader, get all the help and the information that they need. But it's not so long that it feels like, okay, now they're asking me to do a whole bunch of extra work.
I like it. Get in and get out. Just, really just to show people, this is what I've got. Not going to take up any more time in your, life, in your inbox, and, and maybe you nurture them, down the road, but it doesn't, doesn't go on forever. Because
point for a newsletter, it's a great starting point for something that you're then going to send out, once a week or once every couple of weeks, to continue talking about things. That's much more manageable and much more, accessible for people to deal with.
Right.
If you're sending out essentially the equivalent of a daily newsletter for more than a week, I mean, I've subscribed to a couple of those from marketing people that I follow. They send out an email every single day, and I'm like, man,
you're exhausting me.
I admire that you can do that, but I'm tired. Like, just looking at that showing up in my inbox every day for, day in, day out for weeks, for months, it's exhausting, and I don't even read most of them anymore.
Right. Which is a good thing. How to make sure that you don't turn people off. So, okay, so I'm taking it then that you're using your book as the content base to create this email sequence, we'll call it that. And so the question would be, where do you advertise this? Like, how do you advertise it on social media? Do you put on your website? How are you getting people to kind of do the thing?
Yeah, I mean, so the short answer to that question is yes. There's a few places where this is going to live. So firstly, when I or someone like me creates this for you, they will build out a custom landing page for it, or they'll build a page for you on it within your website for it, whichever that works better for you. Honestly, it kind of does work as a standalone landing page. But if you have a book website, if you have a business website, it can live there either as its own page or as your lead magnet for that site above the fold on the front page, which I absolutely think it should. That's a great place for all that to live. More importantly, it's going to live in the front and back of your book. So anyone who picks up the book, clicks on look inside on Amazon, or sees it in a store if you do a store publication type thing, or just looks at it wherever it is, they will be able to click a link or scan a QR code that takes them directly to this lead magnet. It says, this, as a thank you for looking at my book, something like that. Here's your free gift. Here's the lesson that I want to give you. Here's the the email sequence of the 6 mistakes to avoid in this industry to make sure that it works. We use copywriting magic language to make it sound better than I just said, but it lives with your book. So the book is step 1, and getting people into this via the book is step 2. So anywhere the book lives, this will also live. Any visibility the book brings, it will also bring to this. And any marketing you do specifically for the book, if you do a launch, if you do a podcast tour, if you do, if you win an award, whatever it is that you want to do with your book, everybody who sees that is going to see this. And then so everybody who sees that, whether they buy the book or read the book or not, can then get into the email sequence, get onto your list, raise their hand, etc.
I like that. I like that. So basically, there's 2 paths. One, if you've already published the book, then you can create it after the fact. But if you're in the process of, you're still in the book writing, publishing process, this is a good step to do before you launch. So it's actually embedded in your Kindle book or in the beginning. So now that's very interesting that you said, okay, if you put it up front of your book, it's going to show up in the Amazon look inside. And I know that I've sometimes had authors say, oh, but I don't want any secrets getting out until people buy the book. But you're saying, give it away. Like,
Yeah.
Who cares if they don't buy the book? If this is their preferred way, if they're going to work with you, why not? So is that sort of your strategy?
Absolutely. So here's the thing. I alluded to this earlier, and I think I'm going to come back and hit it again here. You, business author, listening to this podcast right now, I say this with all the love and respect in the world. Unless you are James Clear or Cody Sanchez or Alex Hormozy, you are not going to make real money just from selling your book. It's just not going to happen. You are going to make the kind of money that you want to make, the 4, 5, maybe even 6 figures that you want to make from this book. You are not going to make it from selling the book. You are going to make it from selling your services on the back end of the book. Using the book to get people onto your email list, into your orbit, onto discovery calls with you to buy those services from you. You might get $20 from selling a book. With Amazon's cut, you're going to get less than that, but let's say 20. You can sell a $2,000 package or even a $20,000 package on the back end of your book that would require you to sell thousands of book copies just to equal a fraction of that. So I would encourage you, again, all the love and respect for the work that you are doing and the outcomes that you want. I am here to support you. I would encourage you not to think about trying to keep things secret for after somebody buys the book, and instead put the most important, the most impactful, the most helpful things where people can access them at low stakes, and use that to get them into your orbit and get them onto calls with you so that they can raise their hand and say, hey, I actually would like your help with this thing because it is speaking directly to my problem.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I know from like just my own personal thing, it's like a lot of times I'll look at a sample of a book. I'll download the sample on my iPad through the Kindle app or whatever, or I just go on to, Amazon on my computer and I look at the chapter or whatever. But it's like having that stuff right up at the front. It's like, okay, I might just say, you know what? I don't want to spend the time, reading this book. I just want to go and figure out if I want to work with them. So
Exactly.
it's like, I want to take the expressway. So it's like, let me take the expressway. Give me my digital toll pass so I can
Exactly. And that's why you put it in the front of the book. That's why you can also put it at the end of the first chapter. Because oftentimes, like you said, people read the first chapter and then decide if they want to keep reading or not. Stole that one from Mike Michalowicz. There's so much value in giving away the helpful things that you teach in a way to just help people get into your orbit and learn what they need to learn so that they can raise their hand and say, you know what, I actually want some help.
I love that. I love that. So basically, the service that you provide for authors is basically the whole thing. You'll help them design the content, help them implement the tech that, like, you can, if they say, I can't do any of this, you can kind of help them from A to Z,
Yes.
correct?
So yeah, absolutely. So the way that I set this up, and here's another value add for you. I know how I've been an author, I've worked with authors. I know the last thing that you want at the end of or in the middle of a book writing, publishing, launching process is for someone to come and say, here's more work for you to do. That is the last thing you want. Nobody wants that. The second you get to the point you're like, okay, the book is out. Oh no, I have to do all this other stuff. Why? No, you don't want that. Nobody wants that. That is one of the other things that I help with here is I do this for you.
Mm.
I take your book content and I take other content that you've worked with, you've done, podcast interviews, blogs, anything else that you've put together, and I design the strategy for this course. I write all this email sequence, the lead magnet. I write all the copy for you. I set up the back end for you in your website, your CRM, your wherever you are, your landing page. And I stay with you like while it goes everywhere it needs to go for the first 30 days or so and make sure that it's operating the way that it needs to, so that you don't have to take on this additional task after everything else you've already done, but you get to have the connection from the book that you've already put so much work into and to the sales pipeline that you actually want. I do all of that. I build all of that for you. Obviously, you're there with me. You get to sign off on everything, make sure it sounds the way you want it to sound. But I do all of that for you / with you. I also do newsletter content to nurture the people after they've gotten onto the email list and gone through the first 5 to 7 days. And I do LinkedIn content for, around the book, around the driving traffic to the email sequence, to continue building the authority, as the book is coming out and after the book is coming out. So honestly, you have sort of a tripod there. You have the email sequence, you have the newsletters to follow up, and you have the LinkedIn content to drive traffic to it. You can employ those in any order you want. And I can do any of them, all of them, some of them. We can figure out how that would work. But my goal is to make sure that your book gets you the ROI in client pipeline that you want, and do so in a way that doesn't add an immense amount of work and time to your post-book exhaustion phase.
Cool. Very good. Very good. So we've come to the end of our time together, James. Where is the best place for people to reach out and connect with you if they want to learn more?
So right now I'm running everything through LinkedIn. So if you go to my LinkedIn page, you can see posts that I'm writing about these things, about, the some of the mistakes that authors make without meaning to, and how the educational email course, the lead magnet, can help with that. Some of my experience in pivoting from the creation side to the monetization side. I've already started working with a couple of other book professionals, and I'm talking to authors I'm starting to work with now. So as I continue doing that, I'm going to be talking more about what that's looking like and what we're learning and all that fun stuff. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to find me right now.
Got it.
I'm happy
Got
to
it.
chat with anyone there.
Okay, super. Well, we will put all that information we'll put your LinkedIn profile in the show notes so people can easily click on it, easy peasy, and go straight to it. And that will be that. So that's great. Well, thank you so much today for sharing your knowledge. And it's just like a topic we have never covered before, just the importance of email marketing and how this can help you after you launch your book, but actually maybe better before you launch your book, because it can be a part of your
work
system.
before, it can work during, it can work after, it can work if your book came out 2 or 3 years ago and you want to revitalize it. Like this kind of gap, this kind of bridge over the gap between book and sales pipeline can happen at any time. And I think it's going to help, at any point that you want to bring it in. And I'm happy to have that conversation, whether your book is coming out in 6 months or it came out 6 months ago.
Perfect. I love that. Okay. Well, thank you very much, James. And to everybody listening today, I hope you found our discussion today of value. And we hope to see you back here next week for another edition of the Easy Peasy Books Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Easy Peasy Books, from author to authority. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be grateful if you could leave us a review. It helps other aspiring authors discover our podcast. To learn more about writing, publishing, and leveraging your business book, visit my website at easypeasybooks.com.